There we go. All right, there we go. So, Alexei Musienko is someone who I was blessed and lucky enough to meet 2 years ago on my very first marketers cruise. And we met completely by fluke. We were sitting in Pizza and Profits, and he came and just sat down right next to me. That's how we met. That's it. That's how this whole thing started 2 years ago. And I remember that conversation. And check this out. He's been talking about this for so long. Okay, this is my 2023 marketers cruise directory. And he talked about the power of the video book right here. Here's my notes. These are my notes from the very first time. And we wrote it down. We've got the idea, and it was actually, this is his handwriting. Double your income in 6 months or less. And then he went and wrote the book, Double Your Income for Your Time. And so that's why he's here today, because I was like, this man does the thing, right? He did it. So I wanted you guys to hear about this video book because it's a concept that when he first told me about it, I didn't get it. And now I do. And so Alexei, I could they can read your bio. It's fine. But what I love is what you're working on now is the video books and the one relationship away and the importance of that. So, welcome to the Badass Direct Sales Mastery Leadership Summit. I'm so glad you're here. Um, Hello.
Hello, my dear. It's such a pleasure and honor to be part of this community, part of our relationship, because you're one of those people that always will choose to show up because you've always shown up for me. You've always got me to grow. This being one of those moments. I literally redid an entire special private training last night because I saw the first day and how amazing it was. And I said, you know what? If I'm going to show up, I'm going to show up even bigger.
Yes. Yes.
This experience or the special private training is literally some of my new IP that I will be releasing to direct sales world. Into the next time I will do this, it will go to an audience of 600,000 people in direct sales. You guys get to have this sneak preview because literally this training did not exist last night. Yes, I will be touching on the concept of video books, but I also want to make sure to put it into the perspective of how a direct sales professional, or more importantly, a badass servant leader, can really use it to not only change the trajectory of their life, their business, but the impact that they're choosing to create in the world. So that's really the core of the talk or the special private training that we're going to be going through together. And I hope that I can ask for your forgiveness first and foremost, because at the end of the day, I am not a professional public speaker. I can care less about that. What I do choose to speak, it's because it makes a difference. It makes an impact. So if you guys are seeing any mistakes in my slides, please put it in the chat because spelling is not my greatest gift. What I'm about to share with you is. See, this information has never been actually released to anybody publicly besides my high-end clients. And Jenny has a bit of a preview because she's part of my, what I call a power circle. This is individuals that I know, like, and trust and doing business with. So they get the information before the ink actually dries on paper.
Love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, do you need to share your screen? Do you have so you do have slides? Are you all I think you're all good as a co-host, so you are go ahead and take it away. You've got this, sir.
I would love to start this conversation with how many of you would love to have more, and here's the key point, qualified prospects. Not just everybody and anybody, but qualified prospects. What about having your perfect clients literally lining up out the door? You having a waiting list of people that you choose to partner with. And last but not least, what if you can create generational legacy of impact, not just income? My name is Alexei Musienko, and this talk is all about how do you transform your business into a movement. See, I will be going step by step strategically. What does it take for you to go from being somebody brand new to the business to becoming a leader to becoming somebody that creates an impact? And here's the truth. For some of you, this is going to be very entertaining, and I hope you have a great time. For some of you, it's going to be educational. You're going to learn something that you can actually implement into your life, into your business. And last but not least, for a few of you, this will be life-changing. Because this information is a result of my 10-year career in direct sales, over 6 figures earned. So I know what I'm talking about. And last but not least, $500,000 invested into coaches that are doing 7 and 8 figures. This is what they're actually doing, not just teaching. Because a lot of times, certain leaders, they'll teach certain elements that will work for the majority, but what they're actually doing changes lives, not only theirs, but their leaders' lives. So, how do you actually start this whole thing? And I believe the first thing that you can do strategically is create strategic content online. We all have our thoughts, our feelings, and the easiest way that I have found to do this first is to curate content. And it's maybe easy to say, well, it's cool that you can curate content, but here's the thing, you can start doing it too. All you have to do is just answer one question. What is the conversation that you want to be a part of for the next year, 5 years, 10 years, that you're not going to get tired of? See, for me, it's all about strategic relationships. Maybe for you, it's something different. Maybe it's helping single moms. Maybe it's making a difference in the world for people of color. Maybe it's becoming a senator. I don't know what your why is, but what is that conversation that you're spending your time, energy, money without even getting paid? Now start taking content from some of the amazing thought leaders that you really connect with. And one, share that content with your audience, but two, start creating your own. And the simplest way you can do that is just adding your commentary, adding your story, adding your perspective and your experience of how you can make a difference in the world, how you can take that content and add something that only you can add. What is missing out of that conversation? See, for years, I followed amazing thought leaders, and I always thought that whatever I'm teaching or sharing, it just felt generic. I was just repeating yet again something that I heard from somebody. But here's the magic and the gift. If you actually choose to stick with it long enough, you actually start seeing a path that's completely wide open. See, I was always learning about networking, connections, relationships, business, all sorts of really cool things that changed the trajectory of my life. But then I started seeing there's path. Nobody was talking about strategic relationships. How do you actually create them? How do you manage them? And how do you evolve them? So that it not only changes your life, your business, but it creates a greater impact. That was the thing I was adding to the conversation. So now that you know the conversation that you want to be a part of for a long time, what is that one thing that you can add to the conversation? Even if it's just commentary at first. And last but not least, become a composer of that conversation. Who can you invite into the conversation that can share insights, aha moments, or maybe even their perspective? Maybe it's leaders that you're already really wanting to connect, or maybe it's leaders that you already have in your circle. Get them into the conversation. For example, One of my goals is having Les Brown share his tips on how does he create strategic relationships. Or maybe it's Gary Vee, somebody that I've actually got a chance to meet exactly through my One Relationship Away process. See, when you create powerful content, it creates qualified prospects. Because when your audience knows what you stand for, they know the conversation, they can join in. And that's what creates qualified prospects. See, but what if you could take your qualified prospects and make them something more, something greater? And I gotta give credit where credit is due. I would not know about the Ohana Way if it wasn't for Miss Jenny. That training changed the trajectory of my life. I was already doing a lot of the things that Ohana stands for. But to have a simple thing I can share with every quality relationship that I either have or am creating, it's game changing and actually follows this process. These are ideas put together by Scott Conway, one of our other amazing speakers on this panel or on this event. I would highly recommend you check out the Ohana Way. It really will change the trajectory of your life, your business, and the impact that you're creating in the world. But how do you take a qualified prospect and actually create Ohana? Maybe even before you get to go through the training. This is my answer. Create a two-way conversation. If your audience hears from you or the content that you're sharing or creating, it's a one-way conversation. Bring him in closer to you, even if it's just one step, and create a community for those that want to be part of the conversation and get them to contribute their thoughts, their ideas, their actions. Next, you create some group events, right? These are for the community leaders that choose to show up, that add value to you. So you create small groups where that one can get to know you first, and two, you can add even more value to. And last but not least, you give the people that have earned it your quality time. Because that is one resource that I or you may have. Once you spend it or invest it, we can never get it back. But that creates the greatest difference in the quality of relationships that I get to create. See, if we didn't spend quality time with Jenny, we may have known each other, but we would never be family, Ohana, or as I call it, strategic growth partners. Now, when it comes to taking Ohana and making something even greater, collaboration is required. See, you start inviting them into a greater conversations. You create an invitation not to be a follower, but to be a co-leader. Because when you create that invitation, that's how movements are created. Even with the first follower, we see that's when the true leader is born. And when you choose to commit to that process, you really will create a movement. Even if it's just one person at a time, then in a small group, before you know, that group will get bigger and bigger and bigger because you created it. And how do you create a movement strategically? That's one of the things that I've been really playing with and having conversations and masterminds around in my community with my thought leaders and my coaches, business mentors. See? And this is not how you start a movement. I don't know about you, but if you've been in the industry long enough, this is one of the things that they probably taught you. The mirror test. Can somebody fog up a mirror? Then they're a great prospect. And what I invite you to consider is this. That is the worst way to build a movement because you have a bunch of needy people They take a lot of your time and resources, and they never create results or the impact that you can create when you choose to focus and really move forward by sharing the vision of where you're going. See, some of the biggest problems that I have seen in this industry is not lack of commissions, but how you really create a movement is when you start sharing a bigger vision that's bigger than you. What big problem or result that you want to create in the world that just has not happened yet? And you are just a perfect qualified person to maybe start talking about it, even if it's just from the first conversations. See, visions bring audience and communities together. Then you really identify the mission, right? These are the goals. Like, what are we actually going to do? I mean, the vision can be grand, but missions are specific. We know that we're going to Mars. Or as one of our presidents said, we're going to the moon. That was a mission that he was sharing as part of his vision. And last but not least, you gotta not forget values, shared values to be exact. See, what are the standards that you're choosing to create for your community and your movement? Because if there are no standards, if there are no held values, the community will come apart very quickly. Because people will rise to the level of your values if you have that vision, that mission, and the values that you will hold like a line, not in the sand, but in concrete. Because you really train and teach people how to treat you. For years, I gave away a lot of my time because I have a very big heart. And the biggest thing I learned from that is that people that don't pay attention. One of the hardest lessons that I had to learn, because I had multiple people in the same training that they had a big mission and vision, but they didn't have the finances to pay the down payment. And I said, you know what? Just come in, learn from what I got to teach you, because I think your movement is more important than a few monetary setbacks. When I followed up with the same audience 6 months later, I kept seeing the same thing again and again, which was really funny and interesting and blew my mind. The people that paid the $25,000 to be at the training, they were having amazing results. And yet the people that were gifted the training, they had just more excuses. It blew my mind. I'm like, I know I wasn't saying different things to different people. I know the experience was the same. And yet the people were different. So if the only thing that you take away from this talk, raise your standards and keep them. Because when you release people that are just needy, you'll have the time for people that are deserving of your time, energy, and money. The people that you can really partner with and really create a movement. And last but not least, please, for the love of God, stop talking about the money. Here's the problem with when you start the conversation with the commission, the money, the big financial goals, it attracts mercenaries versus missionaries. See, the difference is when it comes to mercenaries, the second the money is gone, or they have a better opportunity that seems more appropriate or bigger, they will leave your movement like rats off the sinking ship. But when it comes to missionaries, they believe in the vision, they understand the mission, and they're willing to keep the same values. That's how you get a better quality person as part of your mission, as part of your vision, and as part of your movement. But how do you actually start a movement strategically? right? We've talked about first creating strategic content to creating very quality leads and then bring them into your Ohana, into your groups, into your movement through the vision, the mission, and shared values. But what are some other strategic ways how you can actually increase the way that you make the movement even more powerful? And this is some of the stuff that I've been actually studying and having conversations with my strategic growth partners. A group of people with shared ideas, right? That's really the definition of a movement, right? I wanted to really break it down so it can be as simple as possible so that you can know beyond the shadow of the doubt that you can do this. It's not rocket science. One of the quotes that I always talk about when it comes to my high-end clients, I tell them this: you don't have to be a genius, you just need to hire one. And the truth is, you don't even need to hire them because Jenny brought the genius to you as a result of this special private event. And when it comes to creating a movement, I've always asked myself, what has been the number one method of transferring of ideas? Because if a movement is a group of people that hold same ideas and concepts, how do you do it at scale? Like, what have there been examples of other movements, and how, like, can I hack that to actually create a strategic path? Well, for the past hundreds of years, if not thousands of years, there's been one way. Does anybody want to guess in the chat what is that? And maybe Jenny, maybe you can read some of the guesses that some of our audience will share with us. Do you have an idea?
I mean, I have my idea.
Please share.
Story.
Okay, that's a great answer.
Story. I would think story is how things have been passed down, how things get created. I mean, look at the most well-sold book ever. It started before it was ever even written down as stories over and over and over again, which is, I'm guessing. I'm guessing.
I love your guess, and the reason why I'm laughing, you'll see in just a moment. Are there any other answers before I move forward with the rest of the special private training?
I don't see any other in the chat, but they may have been busy typing and probably thought, "Oh yeah, I think it's story. Story is the way to do it," or maybe they think it's something different. So they all want to know for sure. They're saying they're so excited to learn.
I love your answer, and it is right, almost, right? Stories, yes, is one of the most powerful ways to transfer information and ideas, but there was one caveat. It said at scale. Right?
Mm.
There's only so many people we can tell stories to, but you actually had the answer in your rest of the explanation, and that is books. How can we take stories, put them on paper, and now I can take that paper and change the world, right? And that's the very interesting thing that I have found out, that there has not been a movement, a massive movement that was started without a book, a booklet, or a printed flyer. Think of religions. Think of companies. Think of any other movement and tell me, if it's a really massive movement, do they have a book that attached to it? And the truth is, probably yes. See, one of the people that I am very inspired by, and I've been following his career for a very long time, is Dan Sullivan. Dan Sullivan is the founder of Strategic Coach, which is actually one of the most premium entrepreneur transformational networks. I'll say it that way. And when he got his board of advisors to see how they could actually grow their business, how they can create a greater impact, and maybe even start a movement, they've had many ideas that they went through again, back and forth. And yet one idea went out beyond all the others. Can you guess which one it was? He chose to write an industry-leading book called Who, Not How. Not only did it change the way that people thought about relationships and how do they approach problems, but it positioned their company as the authority leader in the space of business development because they shifted people's mindsets and they captured their heart through the quality of the information that they shared in that book. See, and this is where we're actually getting to the point where Jenny was excited about. See, the information consumption preferences have been changing. And because of one of my gifts of being able to identify patterns, I've been seeing this for years. See, it was Amazon that said that in 2008, their sales of audiobooks was almost as much as their sales of their printed books. And in 24, actually August of 24, it actually surpassed the sales of printed books, which all that says is that how we choose to consume content has changed. Before we loved reading books. Now we're choosing to listen to them. See, which brings us to my next piece that very few people think about. See, when it comes to printed work, we've talked about books that create movements. We can transfer information. When it comes to audiobooks, I believe the reason why they are on the rise is because we can not only transfer information, we can actually transfer emotion. Have you ever had a thought leader reading their own words, and yet you had such a different experience of consuming the same information? Why? I believe it's because they're able to transfer emotion, that belief, that knowing. And last but not least, this is what you're about to learn today about, and that is, what if there was one more that even took it even further, which is video? What if your video book can not only transfer information, emotion, but also nonverbal language? See, when we take a look at communication, 93% of communication is nonverbal. So if you're already creating a book, or if you decided to create a book because of this talk, because you're realizing that you can take your business and not only change your own life, but change the trajectory of many others to create legacy that will move on for generations, then you might as well create a movement while you're doing your business, because that's the smart and the easier and the more strategic way to do it. Because when you take the focus off yourself, the game changes. And here's the thing I want to teach today that's going to be very special, because it is geared towards direct sales professionals and leaders. Because I'm going to show you how this one asset can change the trajectory of your business by showing you how you're actually going to apply it and use it in your business and the impact that you're choosing to create in the world. If you're still not convinced, here's the how. Let me break it down how a video book can change the trajectory of your movement and allow you to create strategic ohana. See, when you have a video book completed, you're able to show up as a giver, not a taker. How often have you been part of this conversation of like, hey, let me share with you what's important to me, even though I'm going to look like it's actually you that's supposed to be getting the gift? How many presentations have you been a part of that do exactly that? Well, with having a video book, a compiling of your most cherished ideas, values. One, you can give it to many people. Once you've done it once, you can give it to hundreds, thousands, if not millions of people. Now they'll get to know who you are and what do you actually stand for. You become a true giver. Because now the conversation changes, not what can I offer you as an opportunity, but what can I give you without asking for anything in return first? It changes the way that you're perceived in the marketplace. Now you're not just a used car salesman, you become a consultant. Now you become the trusted source in the area that's really important to them. If they identify with that book or some of the principles that you choose to make part of it. Now you become that consultant or a doctor, right? When we go to a doctor, we don't feel like they're selling us anything, but they are prescribing things. And most of us will probably follow that prescription. Well, how would you like to be that leader that writes prescriptions and stops selling to people that are actually going to do the work? See, core content creates qualified leads. And what it means that you can start actually valuing your time even more. I honestly don't even meet with a client unless they've actually had a chance to go through my book and give me 1 to 3 aha moments. Because now I know they actually chose to invest an hour or two into what's important to me. So then I choose to give them an hour of my time to see how our vision, mission, and values may align. Because here's the biggest mistakes that I see leaders do all the time. They get their followers to waste their time, energy, and money on people that are just fogging up the mirror versus really aligning themselves with true deserving individuals. They just need a bit of a hand up to not only change the trajectory of their life, their business, but also create an impact. Amazing leaders create amazing leaders. And because you're here, you get to learn how you can be an amazing strategic servant leader on a massive scale. So, how do you use your video book in a supportive way? Number one, you give your audience, your Ohana, a third party tool that can literally work for them 24/7 and you don't have to. See, as they're sharing your book with their prospects, with their audience, with their potential partners, they're doing two things at the same time. Number one, they're giving gifts away like it's Christmas. Number two, they are allowed now to stop selling and start sorting. Because the people that actually take the time to go through the content that's quality and they can really connect with those moments, now they get to talk to people that are not just needy but deserving. And now this is puts a turbocharge on the concept of the golden triangle. Actually, I would love to have in the chat you guys put either one you have heard of the golden triangle strategy, put number one in the chat. And if you have not, put number two. And Jenny will tell me how many of each do we have so that I will either A, teach on this concept because this concept is life changing, if not business changing.
We got nothing but twos. Like
Wow.
I feel like I've heard you talk about it, but I don't remember it. So I need a refresher anyway. Because I'm like, this sounds familiar. Because when you said it, I was like, ooh, triangle. Yes, golden triangle. I don't remember what it is though.
So the golden triangle was one of the things that I've learned from a seven-figure mentor. And he taught the fact that number one, you use third-party tools to create awareness and you warm up the potential client. Number two, this is how the golden triangle works. It needs three people at every time. And if you're not using the golden triangle, you're literally leaving money on the table, hand and fist. So, number one person in the golden triangle is the expert. Expert is anybody but the person who is introducing the prospect or the potential partner. Somebody hopefully knows what they're doing, but it is somebody that has authority, but they don't have trust. The friend or the individual that introducing the individual into the golden circle, they have trust but no credibility because they're too close to the relationship, right? They know each other. And last but not least, we have our guest or a prospect that's being introduced to the triangle. And now the person that's being introduced, they have the trust from the friend and the authority from the expert. This changes the game. Once the person introduces the person to the golden circle, they'll usually edify the expert and then they be quiet. This is how simple this can be. The expert is usually an individual that knows how to create and ask powerful questions to influence the individual into seeing whether this mission and vision is in alignment to themselves. Because the last thing we want to do in the golden triangle is sell. Because if you have to sell a person once, you'll have to do it for the rest of the experience. And I honestly don't have the time to do so. And hopefully, by using the golden triangle, you can now change the way your business works. But now I did say that a video book can create a golden triangle on steroids. And the way it happens is this way. Your partners share the video books with their engaged prospects. The prospects go through the information, they have an aha moment, they are grateful for the gift. And then you get to connect them with the expert that created the book in the first place. How is your posture different now with your prospect or the person that you're inviting into the golden triangle? Game changer. Just try it.
Well, I want to hop in really quickly because that golden, like if you go back to the golden triangle is what explains how BNI works, right? Because I could, without BNI, my podcast wouldn't be where it is today. Without BNI, my business wouldn't be where it is today because I've got a bunch of people out there saying, oh my gosh, her podcast is so good. You should listen to it. And it shares, and that is going out globally because now I'm I'm that first person in the golden triangle. My BNI referral partners are number 2, and then the people in their network are that third person. Ah, guys, this is so good. Okay, continue. Sorry.
And last but not least, the third way how you can use your influence to really support your amazing strategic growth partners and your Ohana. Number 3 is promotion. How do you do this strategically, though, if you have many people? Number 1, you get them to compete for testimonial in your video book. Have them create results that are big. Now, 2 things happens. Now they actually have a result to share with their group or their network. And number 2, now they can say they are in a best-selling book. Now they feel like they would love to share that book even more, which allows your movement to strategically grow even faster. Next level, for those that really are not just your leaders, but they're your strategic growth partners, you have them write a chapter. These are usually would be your six-figure earners. They can really add to the conversation and making a book even better. Now that their micro team can use that book even more powerfully. And not to make the book too long, you can have multiple versions of the book because all you have to do is just add one chapter. The cover is the same, majority of the book is the same, and now you're literally creating a really powerful book that can have multiple leaders sharing their story and their magic bullets that you were going to share anyway, but now it's so much more powerful because somebody else is saying it beside you. Because when you say it, you're selling. When they say the same thing, they're sharing. And last but not least, your seven-figure earners. You create a co-brand, co-authoring. Now you take their area of genius and you take your area of genius and you create a book together. Now both of your audiences are cross-promoting. See, most business gurus will charge for these elements. But what if that could be an added benefit to your community, to your ohana, and your movement as a gift just to be a part of it? And when they know in advance the vision of where they're going and what it can create, now the game starts becoming very exciting. And that is actually the end of the special private training.
Oh my gosh, y'all. Okay, I want to know in the chat, what was your big aha moment? Did anybody like what came across for you that was powerful enough that you wrote it down? Because I put everything in the chat. Like for me the chat is my notes for this because I don't have enough room on my desk here to run a summit and keep notes. So I'm like, I'm going to keep it in the chat. So what were your aha moments, guys? For me, it was the aha moment of, no book, no movement, right? And that's honestly what I'm personally looking to create is, how can I hit my goal of positively impacting 1 million network marketers and their families without something like that. And the podcast is one way, but without a book, oh my gosh. So yeah, I love this. Let's see. Marcel says body language in a video book, right? The importance of being able to impart that trust factor from people being able to see you. And Alexi, if I may add to this, part of the reason that a video podcast and why I'm adding video podcast to my audio podcast is something called the parasocial relationship, because brains are wired to recognize faces. Why is it that so many people are good at remembering faces, but they can't remember your name? Because your brain is wired to remember faces. Oh, that person's good. I like that person. Ooh, that person, their face is bad. Like I had a bad experience with them, right? But when you've got a video book with your face, people create this, what's called a parasocial relationship. They believe they know you. Just like how many of us have a favorite celebrity that we love, that like we're obsessed with? Like, I'm going to say, like, anybody who knows me, yeah, for you, it's Gary Vee. You love Gary, right? I love Gary. He's fantastic. But the one that I'm obsessed with and I talk about all the time, like my actual second husband is Ryan Reynolds. Right? right? Because I believe that I know him because I've seen him in so many different places and he's funny and he's smart. And I've seen documentaries of him behind the scenes where he's as wonderful a person behind the scenes as he seems to be in front of the camera, right? That's a parasocial relationship. Have I ever really met Ryan Reynolds? No. Darn it. Right? So I think I love that it's not that it's the face piece for the video book and the body language and the emotion that they're going to get all of those pieces, right? Sharon says Golden Triangle through BNI was awesome, but her biggest takeaway was the stories to the good book. Like the idea of moving from sharing your story to there's got to be a book.
Well, here's the truth. I learned that lesson the hard way. My first year being serious in direct sales, I ended up creating a seven-figure income plus, and I traveled all over United States, did the meetings for my strategic partners. At that time, they were brand new. I mean, they were babies.
Right.
And I realized that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
I can I could not grow because I was already, having multiple businesses outside direct sales. I was already traveling, and so there was no way I could have hit seven figures even if I wanted to. There was not enough time.
Yeah.
Right? So that's when I really started thinking about this concept, which is really 10 years ago. And now you guys are getting to see the cream that was rising to the top.
Love
And
that.
here's the thing about video books, right? There's again, one to many makes all the difference. You're able to really share your ideas at scale. And the thing that I've never taught before, because I've never thought about using a book for network marketing perspective, is the whole support piece. That was actually the thing that I developed last night, sitting down and saying, how do you do this with a team? Like, how you not only make yourself shine, but you allow others to shine with you.
Yeah.
Because true leaders create leaders that are greater than themselves.
Mm. Yes, I would so agree with that.